What's up, guys? I've got a bit of echo from my phone. Fuck that. We are live and we've got a decent fucking audience already, man. We got a fucking Corey, S'mores and Doors, wrong account. Yes, it's still Corey. We've got Dying Breed, that's Mikey. I know, truck driver Mikey from the States. Obviously, Lorne, Visited by Voices. Big T, what's up, man? Yes, so it's good to see, the word has spread. With my tiny subscriber count and my even smaller penis, it's good to know that, word is spreading. Hopefully that will, spread down to my penis as well and get bigger and bigger and bigger. But yeah, anyway, yeah, good to see a few people on board right at the beginning of a stream. Sometimes when I do start a stream, I'm just like waffling for like fucking 5 minutes and then waiting for begging for someone to come on and start fucking getting the chat. But yeah, it's all good, man. It's all good. Lorne, I think a lot of that is down to you. I think you've pushed the channel quite a bit in the past, and Dan has as well. People like that, much appreciated. But yeah, anyway, so we've already a decent number of people watching by my standards. I'll just get straight into it. No point, warming the audience up, so to speak. I'm just going to get straight into it tonight because I like to kind of, you know, I like to kind of try and keep these streams to a reasonable length. Hour 30, and I like to try and keep it to like 3 or 4 topics at the tops. So really, just want to get straight into it, and really want to get into talking about found footage films because, and I do want to get into further down the line after talking about this, talking about the big horror icons and where I see them in 2030, which is I basically took a random year in the future. 8 years from now, it sounds really far fetched, doesn't it? 2030. It sounds like it's so far in the future, but it's not. It's like 8 years from now. Think back 8 years. That was 2014. That was like what came out in 2014. Like some fucking Marvel film, like Captain America: Winter Soldier. I think maybe it's not that far away. And I thought, you know what? Let's have a look going forward, like maybe to the beginning of the next decade, and just seeing where all these sorts of horror franchises are gonna like line up going forward, because they're not gonna go away, are they? Let's face it. I don't want them to go away. I want them to stick around, but where do we think they're gonna be? But just before we get into that one, I did want to sort of look at the you know found footage. What got me onto this is I watching the whole Ukraine Russia situation developing and getting worse and worse. I just got alerted to Chernobyl for the first time in about 5-6 years, because obviously there was meant to be like an attack, or the Russians were going to attack Chernobyl, the nuclear power station, and this, that, and the other. And I thought, you know what, Chernobyl Diaries was a film that I remember like back in the day, from like it was 2012 basically. It's like 10 years ago. So it's kind of like, it's like the 10-year anniversary. But I don't remember much about that film. So I revisited it a couple of nights ago, and I had like a decent time with it. I thought Chernobyl Diaries was back in the day. I remember like thinking it was a half decent movie, and going back and again, watching it again, I thought, yeah, it's a decent film. But what I never realised, rewatching the film, is it's not even a found footage film. It's it's not a found footage film. It's just a film called The Chernobyl Diaries, and it's basically just a film with a bit of a wonky camera. It's done very much in the found footage genre. Oh, what's up, Darren? Good to see you on board, man. Yeah, so Chernobyl Diaries was a film in my head, going back, I thought it was a found footage film because 2012 was kind of like, it wasn't ground zero for like found footage films. They'd been going obviously like a good like 13 years in the mainstream, but they were still going they were going at around 2012. They were still quite a, there was a lot of them around. There was still, they were churning these films out a lot. And I think at the time I just probably watched the film and just thinking, oh, it's another found footage film, and it never even occurred to me that nobody in the film is holding a camera. And this is 2012, so this is a time when smartphones were kind of in the infancy to a point. They weren't quite to the level they were now. So people, when you were doing found footage films, they were kind of still go with the old sort of, slightly bigger handheld camcorder style. But yeah, it's clear when you watch this film that this is not going on. And I was like, holy shit. I always mention the Mandela effect. Always talk about the Mandela effect of, this idea that you think you've seen something that was real and it wasn't. And it turns out that thousands of people have seen the same thing. They probably didn't. They probably didn't think that this was a found footage film. Probably just me being a stupid bastard. But yeah, I just assumed that like this film was a fucking found footage film, but just with the crazy, it feels like a found footage film. And the point I'm trying to make is, it's it's a better film for it. It feels like a found footage film, but because it doesn't rely on, somebody constantly holding that phone or that handheld camera, it makes it a better film. Because the problem with found footage films is, with a lot of found footage films, is you've got this, you're thrown into a situation where these people begin filming something, be it Blair Witch Project, which I love the Blair Witch Project. Don't get me wrong. Hell House LLC is a found footage film which I adore, which is a fucking amazing film. But there are found footage films which they plunge them into these situations where it's all told through a camera by the person holding, be it a phone or a camcorder or whatever. And at no point in that movie do they decide, fuck this is crazy, I'm getting out of here, I am throwing that phone away, I'm throwing that camera away, and I'm running like hell. And it totally takes you out of the experience, because you just think, why on earth are these people still recording? A perfect example being like The Gallows, which is not a good film, but I actually don't mind it that much. But that is a film where, as bad as things get, they just keep recording, and you're like, no, you wouldn't be doing that in a real life scenario. That phone or that camera would be getting fucking launched across the room, and you would be on your toes getting the fuck out of there. What the fuck are you doing? But with Chernobyl Dies, because, and it's not the greatest film of all time, but it's an enjoyable, horror movie slash found footage movie. It's not a found footage movie, but it feels like a found footage movie. The good thing about the movie is it gives off the sense of a found footage movie in the right ways. You've got that, the camera work is intense. It's quite high. It's very fast. It's quite in your face. It moves in and out, and it gives you that sense of urgency, which it can be a good thing. Obviously, this is a staple of found footage films, and it's not always a good thing. But if you know that it's not somebody deliberately just moving the camera around in a crazy way, and it's done to move the story forward, I haven't got a problem with that. That's why I think Chernobyl Diaries, it kind of succeeds in a way. It's, for me, I mean, and if it had been a found footage film and it was someone just constantly holding a camera, constantly holding a phone, it would have it still would have been a decent film, but it would have taken me out of it slightly. The reason I say this is because I also watched today, because I was kind of like curious to just watch another couple of found footage films, just which are genuine found footage films, to try and justify what I've said, in the previous statements. And As Above, So Below, a 2014 this is a found footage film set in Paris, in the catacombs underneath Paris. I just found this a bore fest. I found this really, really dull, really, really. I mean, nothing to do with the fact that, yes, they do constantly film even when their lives are in danger, which just, proves my point somewhat. But on top of that, it's just a really, really dull film. And, it's just, why do we need these? Why do we need these films to exist sometimes? I just sometimes scratch my head, because, yeah, As Above, So Below, a found footage film which is fucking atrocious. Chernobyl Diaries, very similar film in terms of stylistically, a very similar film. Not a found footage film. You can do these films without making it a found footage film. You can make it an interesting film, but you don't have to make it found footage. It can be a good, entertaining film, but you don't have to have this visage of like somebody's always filming it. It worked with the Blair Witch Project because you've got that internet savvy that the filmmakers had, where they were obviously purporting this film to be real, and they used the internet like geniuses to push the film. But 10, 15 years down the line, this was not really necessary. So yeah, it is what it is. Jesus Christ, I just, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of found footage films, and I'll explain this. This will become obvious now, because I was like, on these live streams, I always like to do like a little countdown list, and I have done a little list of, the so-called best found footage films of all time. I would like to say I've seen all these films, but because I've been burnt so many times with these films, I'd say like 30% of these films I've not seen, and you guys in the chat have probably seen them or seen some of them, and you can like big them up, and sell them to me. But I will share that. I'm just going to go back to the chat a little bit, because I have missed a few comments. Yeah, Dan's in the chat. Dan says, I've seen people still live around there. Chernobyl, really? Big T's in the chat. What's up, man? Wait, the Chernobyl Diaries didn't have a bear jump scare. Yes, it did have a bear jump scare. Big T. Yeah, that was actually that was a jump scare that I did not see coming at all. That was the best jump scare of the film. To be fair, I did not see that coming at all. I was thought it was going to be some stupid like ghost or something, like a scary face. I did not see a fucking 500-pound bear running across the screen. Mikey says, well, he personally never seen anyone profusely living up the area. It wouldn't surprise me, Mikey. It wouldn't surprise me at all, because, as I say, I don't know about, Pripyat, which is the city, which is where they all lived. I think that's safer now. Now, I can't speak for like the actual, obviously, where the reactor was. Obviously, that's probably way too dangerous. But Darren says, I like the Blair Witch Project, but there's no topping Cannibal Holocaust. Which is is that the original found footage film? Lorne will probably tell us. Because as far as I'm aware, Cannibal Holocaust is the first found footage film from 1980. But I could be wrong. So let's just go into the top, I think it's the top 35 found footage films. Now, bear in mind, I have not seen some of these films. Now, like I say, I've had my fingers burned once too many times with found footage films, so I've not seen all these films by far. I have seen a lot of them, but you guys in the chat, you tell me what is worth watching and what is not worth watching. So this is Paste magazine, which I find is quite fairly reliable when it comes to their opinions. They're not great, but they're not terrible. This is I don't think this is any sort of order. I think this is just basically their top 35. So they put Creep at number 1, but I don't think it's actually their number 1. I think it's just basically what they regard as their 35 favorite films. Just bear with me. I'm just trying to get myself. Give me 2 seconds. Yeah, so yeah, Creep number 1, Creep. I'll refrain from numbers because I don't think numbers are relevant in this list. Creep is an example of a really, really, really good found footage film, and it lives by its name. Yeah, this film is genuinely. It is it's genuinely. It's not. I would say it's scare. Well, there are a couple of real scare scenes, like the scene where he just comes out of nowhere with like a fucking mask on. It's just that is genuinely disturbing. Most of the time, it's just awkward. It's like watching like like a really really awkward comedy like The Office or something. Like watching someone who's like socially inept trying to be friends with someone and you're kind of like cringing. But obviously, it gets a lot darker than that going on. But I've got no arguments that Creep is an example of a genuinely good found footage film. Late month, a lot about this film. I've not seen. I do need to rectify that. I really do. Oh my god, the pop-ups on this website are just no, that's not even a pop-up. That's from like Steam. But Lake Mungo, yeah, I do need to rectify that. That is meant to be a fantastic found footage film, which I still haven't seen. But the Blair Witch Project, yeah, no brainer. I mean, it didn't reinvent the wheel. Did Last Broadcast reinvent the wheel? Maybe, I don't know. It's like if Cannibal Holocaust invented the wheel, did Last Broadcast reinvent the wheel, or did Blair Witch Project reinvent the wheel? That's one, for purists to argue. I mean, Last Broadcast was 88, was 98. This was 99. I have not seen Last Broadcast, but a lot of people do say that. I mean, if it wasn't a success, though, did it really? Was it as if it wasn't as influential as Blair Witch Project? Was it? Blair Witch Project probably maybe so. I mean, I don't know. Did Last Broadcast even come out in '98, or was it delayed till '99? I've seen various articles about it. Paranormal Activity. Don't like any of these films. I think they're just dull as fucking dishwater. I just my bad. I never liked these films. I mean, the fact there's like 6 or 7 of them as well is just mind blowing to me. Yeah, I just, they give it a bad name. And Hell House LLC is one of the greatest horror films of the 21st century, in my opinion. Not just found footage. This film, I've got to give a shout out to Piz. Every time I mention this film, I always give a shout out to Piz because he's got me onto this film. This film's incredible. This is by far one of the best found footage films of all time, one of the best horror films of all time, one of the best films of the 21st century, in my opinion. If you have not seen Hell House LLC, you need to see this film. It is incredible. Rec from 2007. This is the Spanish Rec. Obviously, it was remade for a United States audience. I wasn't the biggest fan of this film, to be fair. It just didn't do it for me. It did nail that claustrophobia of like films like The Descent, but there's something about this film, it just didn't click. Maybe was it the cast? I don't know. It just didn't really work for me. The idea, the setting wasn't quite as creepy. The idea of the descent where you're like, 100 foot underground with no escape. You don't get this with Wreck because it's not that same. It's not, the setting is just not the same, and it doesn't. You can't really recreate that sense of isolation with this film that you do with The Descent, and that's possibly why. Gonjam Haunted Asylum. I've never heard of this film, so I can't even comment on it. Host. I love Host. Love Host. Host. It's 56. Yeah, it's 56 minutes long. Shot during lockdown. It's a Zoom chat. It's just. I mean, it's a Shudder original as well. So I'm assuming it's on Shudder 24/7. But if you've got Shudder, even if you haven't got Shudder, just somehow get hold and watch this film. It's so damn good. It's really, really basic. I mean, it's just like even more like low key Unfriended, where you don't really see much, but it's there's a palpable like rise of tension during the whole film, and it's just it really just on the money when it comes to like nailing that sort of sense of that we've all been on like these sort of Skype calls or Zoom calls where there's a sense of like there's a feeling like there's something not right, and they really nail this. It's oh my god, it's just if you haven't seen Host, just see Host. Now, as I say, I'm not the biggest fan of found footage, so I've never heard of Nora the Curse, never heard of this film, and I think I've heard of Taking the Deborah Logan, but I don't think I've ever seen it. 2014, probably not. I just by 2014, I was pretty much I just given up on found footage films altogether. I was really sort of like not really down with them. Troll Hunter is a fantastic film. Troll Hunter is, people, Scandinavian horror is kind of like something that's so, like, people probably think Scandinavian films, period. What is that? Scandinavian horror is like something like even more niche, more obscure for a lot of people, not just in America, more in Europe as well. Scandinavian films is something we never see. So for them to drop this and for it to be the success it was is saying something to the filmmakers, because we just don't even we see nothing of Scandinavian movies in the UK, and in America it must be even to a lesser extent than that. But Troll Hunter is a fantastic movie. I mean, it's just so different to what is on the list in terms of when you see found footage, you don't really think of like trolls. You think of like ghosts, and it's just. I'm not going to go through the full list because I just feel like I'm just repeating myself a little bit. I just want to mention like this one more, like maybe a couple more films, and one of them is Unfriended. I think Unfriended is absolutely fantastic. Unfriended gets a really bad reputation, and I don't even know why it does, because I just think Unfriended is just such an original film. And the great thing about Unfriended is it's totally reliant on like real world websites as well. I'm sick to death of seeing like films where they use fake search engines and fake social media sites. This uses YouTube, Skype, Twitter, Facebook. It uses all the genuine sites, and I don't know how it works in terms of like authorization, because obviously you have to pay obviously to use these sites. Obviously, otherwise all films would always use these sites anyway. But the fact that they use these sites in quite a negative aspect in terms of like social media bullying, it's hats off that they actually get the permission to use all these sites. I mean, I think it's a film like this lives and dies on its authenticity, and Unfriended, succeeds in this because if this film didn't have real Skype, real Google, real YouTube, real Facebook, real Twitter, all that stuff, this film would not hit in the same way that it does. It wouldn't hit as hard because you'd be totally taken out of the film. But having all this, it just totally makes it a worthwhile experience. But yeah, I think I've covered enough of that. I was going to go through all 35, but you know what? When you go through all 35, it does become a little bit sort of like repetitive. So I will go back to the stream properly. Daniel Edwards in the chat. What's up, Daniel? Are you a new subscriber? I've not seen your name before. But good to see you on board. Oh, hang on. That's not a genuine account, is it? Sorry. Daniel Edwards is not real. The Den is a bit. Yeah. I've heard about the Den. Darren, I did. That was on the list of like films to watch. The Den. I have not seen the Den. I will have to check that out. Lon says, I really like Infliction. It's a mean little fan footage film that sticks to your teeth. I will make a note of that one. Yeah, some of these films just completely fly under the radar. Corey's in the chat. Yeah, I know Corey was in the chat at the beginning, but he's back. Creep is a great one. One of my favorites is Troll Hunter. Yeah, it's something a little bit different from the average sort of found footage, normality, which is, it does become a little bit tedious, a lot of these found footage films. Big T says the first Paranormal Activity is pretty good. The rest ones, I mean, do we need 6 Paranormal Activity? Is it 6 or 7 Paranormal Activity films? I'm not entirely sure at this point. I saw the first couple and I can't put myself through it. Also, the opening of Barrymore, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is shot first person, single shot. There's no. So you're answering my question about first found footage, aren't you? Yeah. So yeah, Cannibal Holocaust is half found footage, half conventional. Peeping Tom has key found footage. Yeah. Peeping Tom is just I never really regarded it as found footage, Peeping Tom, but it's if Peeping Tom like the first. Did Peeping Tom, which came out? This is an awkward question because this is kind of like Peeping Tom and Psycho were both 1960. Now, clearly neither influenced the other, and obviously they're both made on opposite sides of the Atlantic. But did one influence? I mean, how do I phrase this? Did Peeping Tom maybe not get enough credit going forward because it was kind of like sunk by Psycho? And what I mean by that is imagine Psycho had never came out until like 10 years later. Imagine Hitchcock had never made Psycho until like 1970, and Michael Powell had released Peeping Tom in 1960. What would Peeping Tom look like now as a movie? Would it be far more of a widespread, well-known film, or would it still be this little-known, kind of like dark, little creepy, little weird film? I don't know, because I mean, for starters, I can't transport myself back to the 1960s. All I know is that Michael Powell, the filmmaker of Peeping Tom, was basically just disowned by the film industry. But is it because this is where I rely on Lorne maybe a little bit. Is it because Peeping Tom came out before Psycho, and so the film, the audience weren't ready for this. And then once Psycho came out, maybe if it came out like a year or two later, maybe his reputation would have been intact and he could have carried on, doing his stuff. But I don't know, because I'm not really down with. I mean, I don't know what went on in the early 60s. Big T says, has anybody seen the Batman? I've not seen it yet, but parts of it are filmed in Liverpool. So there are elements of the film which Gotham City, part of Gotham City, part of the film are filmed in my home fucking town, which is good, It's like I go to cinema and see the Batman, see a big Hollywood movie, and I can see, oh, I've been there. It's basically what it is like if people aren't aware, like especially in the States, it's so expensive to film in America that like basically Liverpool, where I'm from, it's part of it, like in the city centre, are quite reminiscent of New York. So Captain America Winter Soldier, there was part of that film was filmed in Liverpool, and other films which are basically based on New York, and obviously the Batman, which is it's Gotham, but obviously it's kind of New York as well. They obviously thought, fuck, we're not gonna spend a fortune filming in New York, so they just basically come to Liverpool and do some scenes there. So yeah, it's good because it puts my town on the map, and the Beatles did that anyway. But but it's good to see that it's still getting referenced. But Corey says, I kind of enjoyed the last Paranormal Activity. This was a Paranormal Plus exclusive here. I've not seen it. Like I said, I've not seen anything past 2, and maybe I never will. Maybe one day I'll binge watch it. Lorne says, peeping. Lorne has got an answer. I'm assuming probably. Peeping Tom had distribution trouble. A lot of theatres wouldn't play it because of the nudity implied by the title. Hitchcock, of course, didn't have those issues because obviously, Hitchcock is just like this a massive name at that time. Hitchcock also had the Block novel, already a bestseller, to help sweeten the medicine for timid exhibitors. Yeah. I mean, it was kind of like going along what I thought would be the case. Now I've completely lost my train of thought now because I was going to start talking about some. Oh yeah, that was it. Found footage is discussed. So basically, what I wanted to do now, I wanted to go on to Scream 6, Halloween Ends, Nightmare on Elm Street, now Leatherface, because he's coming into the conversation as well, and Chucky. And they are, I mean, am I right in saying they're the big 5 now? In 2022 going forward, these are the big 5 franchises moving forward towards 2030. Because my idea was to take the big 5 franchises and try and hazard the guesses to where these are going to be in 8 years' time. I thought, might as well use 2030 as a sort of go-to year. And looking back, the way things have gone, it's kind of sad, isn't it? That as we look forward to I'm looking forward to 2030, and my estimation, the big 5 franchises, and it's kind of sad and it's kind of not sad. The big 5 franchises, I think, in 2030 are going to be Jason, 1980, Freddy, 1984, Michael, 1978, Leatherface, 1974, Chucky, 1988. So you've got a combined age there of, I don't even want to hazard a guess as to what the combined age is. You're talking 50, 80, you're talking nearly 200 years of franchise, which is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I'm not even sure. It's like the fact that we're in 2022 and these are the 5 biggest franchises in terms of horror right now. And I'm looking forward to because a lot of these franchises are obviously coming to an end now. Halloween ends 2022, ends in 2022. you know, the Friday the 13th franchise is just in complete disarray. Nightmare on Elm Street, who knows where this is going? But the fact that the last film was like 12 years ago and people still clamoring to see a new Freddy the film. Chucky's obviously made a big comeback with the TV show, and obviously, I mean, fucking hell, Leatherface. I mean, who saw that coming? I mean, Leatherface is a big now. I would say Leatherface is bigger now than he's ever been, and it's all down to Netflix. It's all down to streaming services. You can't honestly tell me that Leatherface was bigger in 1974 than he is now because we didn't have streaming services. Big T says, I've been binge watching the Scream franchise since they're all on Paramount. I mean, I love the Scream. I mean, you know what? I totally forgot about Ghostface, the Big Six. I totally forgot about Ghostface. Also, Lorne says, Man Bites Dog is a great movie. If anybody's not seen Man Bites Dog, fantastic movie from I think it's the early 90s. Yeah, there's a lot of found footage in that. Also, they kill a kid in that film, which is, you know, for the early 90s is quite dark. Oh, Anthony's on board as well, man. What's up, Anthony? Hellraiser will be back soon as well. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to stretch it to the big seven because Pinhead to me is just, it doesn't quite reach that level. The same as Candyman. You know, I can't believe I forgot about Ghostface though. The big six now. And Corey says Halloween never ends. Lol, nice pun. But in terms of, so I mean, where do we begin with the big six? So like, where do we see the big six 8 years from now? I use 2030 as a guideline because it's the beginning of a new decade, and it's not that far away, really. Like I say, it's go back 8 years, 2014. It's not that far. It's not that long away. That wasn't long ago. Like, where do we see the big six franchises? I mean, Friday. Let's begin with Friday the 13th. Let's begin with Jason. Now, obviously, we've seen nothing for 13 years. 2009, obviously, the remake, which for a lot of people was a high point. I enjoyed the remake. I don't think it was on the level of, you know, I'm being biased because I'm an 80s kid. I'm an early 90s kid. So obviously, you know, those late 80s films and those mid 80s films, they hit hard in the feels for me. But I did like the 2009 remake. And it kind of came along at a good time as well. You got the guy from Supernatural, who was kind of like a big deal at the time. I think it was good that he was in it because it kind of like it senses the film at a certain point in time as well, because anybody who's a Supernatural fan, which I wasn't a big Supernatural fan, but anybody who's a fan of the noughties kind of like pop culture, he was a big part of that. And the fact that he's in that film as well, it's almost like River Phoenix. Not River Phoenix. Corey Feldman. River fucking Phoenix. It's like Corey Feldman being in Friday the 13th, Part 4. He was such an important part. He was such a big part of pop culture in the mid 80s that him being in that film kind of like just it just took it to a next level. And I like the fact that I think his name's Jared Padalecki or something. The fact that he's in that Friday the 13th movie, and he was kind of like a big deal at that time in pop culture, it kind of gives it like that extra little bit of like, you know, kudos. But in terms of like where they're going to go by 2030, this is going to sound terrible now because Sean Cunningham and Victor Miller are like, they're old men. They're like in their 80s now. So in 2030, they could both be dead. In all likelihood, one of them will be dead. Which I don't mean, it sounds heartless and a cruel thing to say, but in all likelihood, the rights are going to pass over to somebody else once one of them dies or both of them die. And maybe they'll move things forward and push things forward and like maybe cease, because they're not going to have that rivalry with the other person because they haven't had that history with them. So I'm not trying to say I hope they both die, obviously. Hopefully they will live to like 110. In an ideal situation, they both see the end of the ways, agree on something that is beneficial to both parties, and then hopefully we can just get a new Friday the 13th movie. If that happens in the next couple of years, where do I see the Friday the 13th franchise in 2030? What I would like to see, and I can't say what I think we'll see, because honestly, I don't know whether we'll see anything going forward with this franchise. But what I would like to see, because I'm going to be biased, I would like to see. I'm just going to say a full reboot, because I'm just a Friday the 13th whore, and I just want to see as many Friday the 13th films as possible. And so if you go for a full reboot and go back to an origin story and then take it from there, then we're going to get, a decade's worth of Friday films with Jason getting older, going through I'm sorry. I am just a Jason whore. I never want to see an end to these films. Which I honestly couldn't say the same for like maybe Nightmare on Elm Street and maybe Chucky. But yeah, in terms of Friday the 13th, obviously I can't see where I think it's going to go, because with this legal situation, I honestly don't know. I mean, this could end up anywhere. But, yeah, that's my personal 20. I'd love to see. I'd like 2030. It would be 50 years since Friday the 13th. Why not 2030, ground zero, and let's just go. Let's just do a decade. Let's get Paramount back in control of Friday the 13th. Is Paramount even a thing anymore? Let's just get those Paramount symbol at the beginning for like 9 years, and let's just do a recreation of 1 to 8. I'd be good. I'd be happy with that. It wouldn't be as good as the originals, but I don't care. Jess says, Big T, definitely the slasher icons are horror and my favourite as well, but some may argue Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, Mummy. Oh, they are absolutely. I mean, Jess, absolutely. They are like absolutely as iconic, but they're from a time before my time. It's like, and they are timeless, because they are more timeless than probably our icons, because 100 years from now they're probably still going to be doing stuff with Frankenstein and Dracula. You never. They truly are timeless. But for me, it's just like, from my generation, this is what I want to see. But absolutely, Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman, all that. I mean, my God, they are. I mean, I don't think Friday the 13th have ever had an actor quite as talented as Christopher Lee portraying their villains, and that's no disrespect to Kane Hodder and Richard Brooker, but let's be realistic. Big T says, oh man, no doubt. I'd say the Universal monsters are a league of their own. They're kind of like the founding fathers to the Mount Rushmore. Well, let me put that out to you. You guys in the chat now. What's your Mount Rushmore of like horror icons? Let's just here's a question. Mount Rushmore of icons pre-1980 or pre-1970, and Mount Rushmore of icons post-1970. Because it would be unfair to try and just do a Mount Rushmore because I mean, really, you're going to try and fit Frankenstein, Dracula, Jason, and it wouldn't work. So, I mean, pre-70, I mean, Dracula, Frankenstein, I'm not really a big enough expert. Pre-70, post-1970, Mount Rushmore of horror icons, it's Jason, it's Freddy, it's Michael, and it's Leatherface. It's got to be. It's got to be. I mean, Ghostface, if it wasn't for that, Ghostface is just different people. So it's not really like, it kind of takes it away a little bit. Yeah, definitely Michael, Jason, Freddy, Leatherface. Paramount released the latest Scream. Okay, so Paramount is still going. It's still a thing. I wonder if Paramount was even still a thing. To be honest with you, I just loved those original 8 movies with the Paramount logo. And obviously, once you hit the 90s, then it was like New Line Cinema, was it? And I was like, no, not down with this. Big T says, my worry is that a lot of these icons will get the stream. Says, well, that is a possibility. I mean, streaming is. it is the new big thing, and but we don't even. The thing is, we don't even know how streaming's going to go. I mean, streaming services at the minute, there's a lot of streaming services, maybe too many, and I don't know whether there's too many to, to does it need to streamline a little bit? Because, like I say, the average man on the street cannot afford all these streaming services. I certainly can't afford them. I flip flop from Netflix to Shudder to Amazon Prime to whatever they're offering. If anybody's got any sense, you go to Netflix, you just binge watch everything they've got to offer, end it, go to Amazon Prime, binge watch their stuff. It's easily doable, but these streaming services know that the average person is very lazy, and they will just stick with one streaming service, and they're too lazy to even attempt to look elsewhere. But and that's where they're lucky, because if everybody thought like hardcore consumer who was like looking to get the best value for money, they'd be screwed, because the average person would not be sticking with one stream service. They would be like, fuck that, man. I've watched the shit out of what you got to offer, and I don't care if you got Stranger Things seasons 1 to 3 and you got season 4 coming up. I've seen season 1 to 3 15 times. I've seen everything you got to offer. I'll leave and I'll come back when you do season 4. I'll watch that, and then I'll leave you again, and I'll go watch something on Shudder or Amazon Prime. I think Amazon Prime do have an advantage, because people with Amazon Prime, obviously, people are always wanting to buy stuff and get it the free packaging. So they've kind of got like that little incentive there to keep people on board. But even Amazon Prime is not enough to keep me on board. It's like I'll just bail out of Amazon Prime, fairly often, and the good thing is that, when these streaming services aren't stupid. I don't know how it's like in the States, but it's certainly in the UK. If you're with a streaming service and you kind of you just like bow out and you just like walk away from them. If you like subscribe to another streaming service, they fucking know what you're doing. They're always watching, so they always tempt you back with a little well, 2 weeks, a month free, a free month, a month's free subscription. Amazon Prime are constantly offering me, Amazon Prime free for 2 weeks or a month. If I walk away from them, they're just desperate, because it doesn't cost them anything. This is $1 trillion company. They don't care. They just want you back, and it's not costing them anything to offer you a 2 weeks free subscription. So as long as if they can get you back with that, they're going to do that. It benefits the consumer. But that's where I think Amazon Prime in the long term may be successful. The fact that they can spend $1 billion on Lord of the Rings just tells me everything you need to know. But it is slightly worrying for like some of these smaller subscription channels like Shudder. I do worry for them, because they do focus on a lot of the like the less mainstream stuff. And if some of these smaller subscription channels services go down, that is bad news for us as a consumer, because mainstream, these big stream services, they're not going to bother putting like Mad Men out, or some like random like 1984 horror film, slasher film, which is nobody cares about, which like Shudder might do. They're just going to go for the big titles. And if these smaller companies have gone, they can do what they want. So yeah, I mean, I've completely gone off topic again. I don't even know what I was talking about. I was meant to be talking about horror icons and where they're going to be going. Anyway, so I've covered basically Freddie. Sorry, Jason. I'm just going to go back to the comments again. Big T says, my words are Alex, I will get the students. Yeah, I think I've mentioned that, haven't I? And then Jess says, you very welcome, very Big T. Big T says, I say the Universal Monsters are the founding fathers. They're the Mount Rushmore and the Godfathers of horror, or Leatherface, Freddy, Jason, and Michael. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. Agreed, Mike. Those four. I think a lot of people, Jess, would go with those four. It's hard to make a case. Maybe Ghostface replacing Leatherface, maybe. But I mean, come on, the first three. Come on, you can't even argue with that, can you? It's interesting that they want much more thing transit. Yeah, well, the thing is though, Corey, it's like it's America. You know, I don't think you guys realise maybe how much of an influence America has on the UK. Because obviously the UK has zero influence on America. You guys probably don't even know where we are on the map. I mean, I could probably point to like 40 states in the US on a map, and like without even like you show me where they are, because it's so ingrained in our like society. American culture is just like so prevalent in British society, whereas ours, because we're only a small country, so Americans are completely oblivious to Britain. Like London, and probably that's about it. And I don't mean that in a derogatory term to you guys. I just mean our perception of America is that you guys aren't really aware of the wider world, which sounds really bad now, but it's not meant to be bad. I think anybody who's British in the chat will kind of like back me up. There's just yeah. Sorry, I'm digging myself into a hole here. This isn't meant as a negative thing to you. I know you guys are well versed in the world, but I would say the average Brit is kind of more aware of American culture than the average American is aware of British culture, if that makes sense. Yeah, I think that's the best way to sum it up, basically. Anthony says streaming all the horror content in the future could mean not being released on physical media for the collectors. Well, let's face it, it's looking that way anyway, Anthony. It's not looking good for the physical media. For physical media collectors going forward. I mean, I'm like a department manager in a supermarket. Basically, Anthony, you'll probably, if I say British version of Walmart, you'll know what I'm talking about. We've completely removed DVDs and Blu-rays from our stores. So that gives you an idea that they're no longer selling Blu-rays and no longer selling DVDs. They've just gone. Now, if the British version of Walmart is no longer selling physical media, that's not, if the normies aren't able to access physical media, then that is not really a good sign going forward, really, Jess says, I flip-flop too, binge watch what shows, movies I want for a few months and then cancel and switch streaming services. It's the way to go. I mean, we do it with everything else. We're always told, with energy services and internet providers, we'll say, switch, you'll get a cheaper option. It's the same with streaming services. You've just got to do that. Big T says, with the Universal monsters being the Rushmore and the Godfathers of horror that he mentioned, what category would you put Chucky, Ghostface? Who would be the other two alongside them? It's, my God. I mean, outside of the big four, and you got obviously Jason, Freddy, Michael, Leatherface, big four, Ghostface 5, 6. I mean, really. After that, I mean, you're really talking. I mean, I suppose obviously you're talking, but it's not really anybody, is it? You're talking Saw, then, aren't you? And it's not really a person. It's just, okay, you could argue that Chucky's a doll, but it's still a character. I mean, Saw, the little thing on the little tricycle. I mean, after that, where would you go with that? I mean, really, I'm struggling to think. I mean, who's had an impact? I mean, what recurring character in the 21st century has had any sort of impact to be even on the same level as Saw? Not really sure I can think of anyone. Obviously, there's somebody there who I've not even thought of, but Anthony says, oh, sorry, Bixie says, and he's replying to Anthony, I think that's the scary thing with the future is that physical media might actually be dead. It's looking that way. Oh, Corey's in the chat. What's up, man? At work, I would say, hey, good to see you on board, man. Dan says there's already bootleg Blu-rays that have been textured. So fans will either have them either way. Yeah, definitely. Oh my god, I missed so much chat. The chat has been, I can't keep up with the chat tonight, which is saying something for me. Big T says, I'm lucky to say that I grew up in the 90s, and because of PBS and my mother and grandmother who loved British television, I have an immense respect for the country. Oh, that's good to know, man. Yeah, grew up in the 90s, man. It's like, so you're born in the 80s, so yeah, I'm guessing you're like born in like mid 80s. Yeah, 90s TV was fucking great, man. It really was. Here in the United States are all mods. If you want to grow DVDs, unentitled sex, but that's for now. I mean, like, who sells in terms of like, steel books? Who, in terms of like when Screen Factory drops these like, or Vinegar Syndrome drop these like, crazy sort of like, limited edition Friday the 13th or Scream, whatever, whatever it is. Do they only go online? Is no shop selling these? I mean, in the UK, no, not that I'm aware of. But in the States, is nobody selling these? Is it just literally just online? And I mean, how many? Let's say Screen 5 drops. They're going to drop a basic DVD version, maybe a basic Blu-ray version, and they'll do a steelbook. How many copies worldwide are they going to sell of that film? How many copies of each format? What's the growth margin for like releasing all these versions? It's like it's looking grim. It really is looking grim for physical media. And I'm not helping matters because I don't buy physical media unless it's something that I really, really want. I mean, I've got like I've said before in a few live streams, I've got in the loft above my bedroom, just like tucked away because I've got 500 DVDs, but they were all bought in like a 7-year time period from about like 99 to like 2006, 2007. And then Blu-rays obviously hit. But when Blu-rays hit, I just bought a house and I had a lot less space and my outgoings were like massive and I could not afford to be buying physical media. And with Blu-ray, it was at this point as well, I realized, I thought, well, I've just spent, hundreds, thousands of pounds, probably, over, thinking about it, 500 DVDs, probably, a few thousand pounds on DVDs. And now they're bringing out all these films which I already own on Blu-ray, but with better quality. I think it's at that point that I sort of like thought, hang on a minute. So we had VHS, then I upgraded to DVD, and I thought, this is great. This DVD, this is, and then Blu-ray came out. It was at that point I thought, well, so at some point Blu-ray is going to improve, and we're going to get something new, and then they're going to release all these films again. And I think it's at that point I thought, I really can't afford to invest in all these films I already own on Blu-ray. So from that point onward, it was kind of basically picking and choosing new releases, which I adored, which I thought were some of the best films ever made, buying them on Blu-ray, obviously, because these are new films, and then taking some of the older films, which of like the 500 or so DVDs I owned, maybe like the 30 or 40 of those were my favorite films of all time. I picked and chose of them what I would upgrade to, and that was it. And from that point onward, it's been like that. It's been a very strict process of like, and certainly I've not even gone into 4K because I I refuse to. Maybe I will in the future, but at this point, I can't justify it. So at this point, with Blu-ray, I've got maybe, I mean, like you say, I've got like 500 DVDs. Blu-rays, I've got maybe 40, and they are like basically consist of like maybe 15 or 16 films, maybe 20 of pre sort of like 2005, which are some of my favorite films of all time. And then the remaining films are some of the films that I absolutely adore, which may not maybe not necessarily the best my favorite films of all time, but films that like are new. So I bought them on. I had to buy them on Blu-ray because obviously it was just easier to. But yeah, I mean that's it. I mean, so I'm part of the problem maybe because I mean I'm not somebody who's out there buying 4Ks, but how can I justify buying 4K? How can I justify buying 4K films? Really? So like, how can I justify it to like my wife? I'm not going to feel guilty about it. I'm on a budget. You know, I can't justify spending out money on a 4K when I could spend it. More meaningful. Not to me, obviously. I'd love to buy 4K films, but you know, she'd be like, "Why the fuck are you buying a 4K film when you could be spending that on buying me something, or or buying something for the house?" So yeah, I mean that's where I stand. This was originally meant to be about where we were going with 2030 with horror icons, and I've spent like 30 minutes talking. Oh my god, this is one comment. This is you, this big T. This is you. You fucking hell, man. You fucking just took that for the tangent now. You're back with it. God. Oh my god. Oh man, keeping up appearances. Are you being saved? Those are the classics, man. What fun the grave, Victor Dibley. This is because last week I think on the last stream I did. I can't remember what I said, but you mentioned Are You Being Served, and you cracked me up with that. So you're like well versed in British comedies. Yeah, Are You Being Served is a classic. Vicar of Dibley, not so. I don't like Vicar of Dibley. Keeping up appearances, yeah, it's not bad. In terms of British comedies, Only Fools and Horses, Blackadder, Red Dwarf. Oh my god! If anybody has not seen Red Dwarf, just watch Red Dwarf. It is fucking genius. If you like sci-fi, like horror, and you've never seen Red Dwarf, just watch the first 6 series, not seasons. It's British. It's series, but I'll call it seasons for you Americans. But yeah, Red Dwarf series 1 to 6. You will not regret it. It is fucking genius. So fucking good, man. Kate Jess says Chucky comes in right behind the big 4, arguing number 5. And then Bixie says it's safe to say that it's the big 6 of the Godfather because she could definitely add Chucky and Ghostface in there. Oh my god. That's right, Jigsaw. I'm gonna have to fly through these comments now because I need to get onto the next character. Have you Americans seen Fools and Horses? I don't think Americans would really get Only Fools and Horses. I think Red Dwarf, they get Red Dwarf more because it's sci-fi and it's set on a spaceship. But with Only Fools and Horses, because it's set like on a council estate in like London, I don't think they'd really get it. And he says, in the UK we have HMV, which is last year, and HMV is closing down at a fairly rapid rate as well, unfortunately. Just says Ghostface is now an iconic slasher. Well, it's 25 years old, 26 years old. He's definitely. Think about it now. Think about it. Ghostface is as old now as what Jason was in 2006. Think about that. That's just think about it. It kind of sums up how old we are. It kind of sums up how old how time is going on because yeah, Ghostface is as old as Jason was in 2006. But all-time slashes, Ghostface definitely ranks up there. Yeah, Jess, I know. Jess, look. You should have reached out to me, man. When you did your horror rumble and nobody was on your side, you know, I would have been on your side, man. I would have like put a good word in. I felt for you then, man. Because yeah, you would. There wasn't a lot of love for Ghostface in that stream, apart from coming from you. Big T, they make still a collection scheme movie. I officially retired from collecting. Just says to me, Ghostface is the king of night horror slashers. Big T. So here in the US, Best Buy usually has exclusive steelbooks for various new releases and some back titles. Another store is FYE, had their own steelbooks as well. Just says, I'll probably buy Scream on DVD. And Jamie's in the chat. What's up, Jamie? Nice to see you on board. I hope you haven't been in the chat long. I've not ignored you. I've just been like rambling on from one comment by Big T, which kind of set me off. I've been doing this all night. I've been kind of getting set off by comments. HMV sell most of the boutique company Blu-rays like Arrow Video. And Big T says, see, this is one of the biggest problems in the United States. It's always repetitive. They always re-release Rambo, Hunger Games, Harry Potter, and Mad Max. There's never ever anything outside of the box. Well, I mean, there you go. It's the dollar, isn't it? You know, you're looking for the easy money, and I mean, look at Harry Potter. I mean, Harry Potter, it's a no-brainer. Rambo, maybe to a lesser extent, but yeah, I mean, they're always going to go. Where's I look at some of these like sort of Sean, what's up, Sean? I see you on board. Yeah, going back to what you said, Big T, about Netflix. I was wondering, like, how is it? You know, I mean, sometimes I see like Piers or Christian and Nick, they do reviewing like this latest Blu-ray or 4K, and it's the most random. Like Piers did the review on like Girls' Night Out from 1982, like this new Blu-ray or 4K update, and like, who's buying this film? Because this film was fucking awful. This is a dog shit early 80s film, and I'm like, who's funding the release of this film? Who's funding this upgrade? And like, I'm glad it happened, because as much as I think the film's a piece of shit, it's great that it's getting a 4K or Blu-ray release. But I'm just like, and they're thinking outside the box clearly. But yeah, it does make me wonder. You know, it's like there's money to be made in Harry Potter. There's money to be made in, like, obviously your big franchises. I just scratch my head and just think, where's the money to be made in some of these random horror films from the early 80s? But I'm glad they're doing it. Obviously, it's just I just scratch my head and think I can't see where they're making the money. It's just good morning, everyone. Exactly, Sean. Good morning, everyone. And we're in the UK and Ireland, and we're saying good morning. Yeah, it is like 25 to 2, but it's one of the best sets the US has gotten as well. It's the Friday the 13th collection. Yeah, that was an awesome collection. That is actually one that I did invest in. Oh my god, I can't keep up with the chat, man. Hi Jess, you refuse to go to 4K. Is that you're refusing to go to 4K, or are you saying I'm refusing? Yeah, I'm refusing to go to 4K. Yeah, I am refusing to go to 4K at this point, because I just can't justify it. Because I just can't justify it. Anthony Oliver. Anthony says, wish that was in UK. Dan, I got 2 Ultra HD videos, but I'm sticking with Blu-ray. Equifax is the same film. That's the problem, is it? I mean, once 4K is done, are we getting 8K? I mean, we know 8K is a thing, but are we going to get to the point where the human eye can't really detect beyond a certain level? Because I remember when Blu-ray came out, and I was like thinking, oh, you can't get better than this. And then 4K dropped. I'm like, oh my god, this is insane. And I'm like looking at 4K now, thinking this can't get better. It can't possibly get better. And I'm like, there's got to be a point where it can't get better. The human eye can only take in so much information, surely. But oh, sorry, Jamie's. I missed Jamie's comments. James says, my Walmart doesn't have much for DVD and Blu-ray these days. No more bins for me to read. Yes, sorry. I'm almost catch up with the chat now. The young ones. Oh yeah, the young ones as well. Right, I'm just gonna like the chat is it's doing its own thing now, so I'm just gonna move on because let's face it, you guys chat amongst yourself. I'll try and get back to the chat in a minute. Like so, we've talked about Jason. Was it Jason we talked about? It was Jason. So moving on to Freddy. Now Freddy Krueger, obviously last seen in 2010. You know, wasn't widely loved by the fans. Kind of a hit and miss. A lot of people did seem to like kind of enjoy it, but even the biggest fans was just like, well, this is no Freddy Krueger. Is it Jackie Earl? Was it Jackie Earl Haley? His name? It was Jack. Was it Jackie Earl Haley? I forget. I got that. The film just completely it just went over my. I mean, it just completely. I watched the film and just completely forgot it even existed within like 6 hours. I mean, I don't think he did a bad job, but it's just it wasn't well written. It was a badly unlikable cast. I don't think is entirely his fault, but you know the director didn't. I don't think the director did a very good job. But I think I've said this before in a previous stream. I think I mentioned this in one of Piz's Patreon streams. The issue is not with Jackie Earle Haley. The issue is not with the director. It's not with the issue is with Robert Englund has made that character his own in the last, from 84 to like, you know what? It was a very short, he made it his own within 10 years, 84 to 94. So from the first film to New Nightmare, it was a space of just 10 years. But in those 10 years, he made that character his own. And he became a pop culture icon. I mean, he was on MTV. He was everywhere. He was like, this was like he was not like a child friendly, literally not a child friendly character, not a child friendly sort of like icon, but he kind of went beyond the horror. I would say pop. He went beyond horror pop culture into regular pop culture, if that makes sense. So he became notorious and famous amongst people who had no awareness of horror films. I mean, he became so big. He came almost like known to like soccer moms, to use an American expression. Like if I was to say to my mum in the late 80s, early 90s, do you know who that is? She may not have been able to say, oh, it's Freddy Krueger, but you know who it was. If I'd shown her a picture of Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers, she'd just look at me like, I haven't got a fucking clue. So he did kind of cross over even more. I mean, I've made this point before. He certainly crossed over more than Michael Myers, and he even crossed over. I know Jason was on the Arsenio Hall show. I think it was Kane Hodder playing him, but he crossed over more than Jason appearing on the Arsenio Hall show. He was just that. There was a time in the late 80s where he was just a money maker. His face was everywhere. He was on. I mean, God only knows what sort of like sponsorships he was getting in America. I mean, in the UK not so much, but I can only imagine like what America is like in terms of like I mean, the likes of McDonald's and Burger King even try and like use his face, even though they're family friendly companies. Did they try and like use his face to like promote stuff? Because he just seemed to be everywhere in the late 80s and to a lesser extent the early 90s. But in terms of where we go with Freddy in 20, like I'm saying, looking forward to 2030. Seriously, I just think we're going to be looking at maybe a streaming service at best. I mean, Freddy hasn't got all these contractual, issues that Jason's got. If somebody wants to go forward, to the best of my knowledge, if somebody wants to go forward with a new Freddy film tomorrow, they could. But he's lost a lot of kudos in the last sort of 20 years. Like I say, I've mentioned this before. He is not the gold standard that he used to be. I mean, Michael and Jason have far overtaken him. Chucky as well, Leatherface now as well. I mean, he's like fifth now. Okay, he's still in the Mount Rushmore of all time, but in terms of, if this was like a modern day top 5 icons, he'd be fifth. Leatherface, Michael, Jason, and Chucky will be ahead of him. So I just don't think he's got the pull anymore to justify like a movie. And I think come 2030, I think we could be looking at a situation where we've had maybe, you know, a TV show, maybe Freddy's Nightmares is going to reignite some interest in him as a character. But I honestly don't really see there's much hope for a new Nightmare on Elm Street film. I think, especially with streaming going the way it's going, it's becoming just bigger and bigger. Maybe he'll get like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre like reboot for Netflix or something, like a 90-minute movie. But I honestly think that a TV show would be the way to go. I think with a character like Freddy now, the best way to go would be to build up interest in him as a human being almost, like get a guy on board who can play the character and bring him into the role slowly and just generate like an interest and a feeling for the character instead of just dropping him into like an 80-minute film. But that's where I see them going with Freddy. So before we move on to Michael, let's just go back into the chat. Chat's been amazing tonight, guys. Gotta say, so much. Thank you so much. I'm gonna miss some of these comments, I think, because I just literally haven't got. It shows me where the last one I clicked on was. Oh yes. Bottom and Young Ones are best. Bottom is, I love Bottom. Young Ones not so much, Sean. Young Ones is, I want to say it's a bit before my time, but it was kind of like mid-80s, so I was still really young. But Bottom, when that dropped, it was like 1990, so I was like 15, 14. Oh, Bottom was just hilarious. And Rick Mail, rest in peace, man. So good. Only Fools, yeah, I love Only Fools and Horses. Love Only Fools and Horses, Anthony. Just amazing TV show. Jamie used to watch it, Young Ones back in the day. I could see Young Ones being popular in America for some reason. I can imagine that really sort of clicking with the American audience. Yeah, definitely, Jamie. Check out Bottom if you like Young Ones. It's definitely the Bottom is the sort of TV show that would be very, very problematic in 2022. Am I right, Sean? It's not politically correct in the slightest, and it's fucking brilliant for it. Darren says Young Ones video, Nasty's great episode. One thing about Young Ones is it's one where on the train, I think Vivian puts his head out the window and his head just gets chopped off, and he's just walking around like a decapitated head, and he just picks his head up and sticks it back on. I remember that. See. I'm on your side when it comes to Scream, Jess. Yeah, and so am I. Yeah, I think you're right, Jess. It didn't deserve the hate you got on that stream. So I'm listening to I put my grocery order in. Oh, that's good. I could have used your mic's back up for sure on this show. Yeah. Big T, as somebody from the United States, I picked up publicly apologise to the Fast and Furious franchise. You know what? I don't mind Fast and Furious 7, the one where Paul Walker dies. Well, that doesn't die. The one he dies in real life and he just drives off at the end. That was quite sad. I like that film. It's ridiculous, it's over the top, but you know what? But the rest of the franchise, no, not for me. Anthony says it's good to know people over the pond enjoy British comedy shows like the Friends and the Big Finish of the UK. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to like American sitcoms, I hate Friends and I hate Big Bang Theory. Although I used to like Big Bang Theory, American sitcoms I like Frasier, and I like Everybody Loves Raymond. Um, and I used to like, I think it was called Rules of Engagement from like about 10 years ago. I think I quite enjoyed that. I thought it was like slightly more clever than the usual sort of a deep cut, which I don't know whether, I think Jamie, you may remember this. This is from the early 90s, and this is a film. This is like it was a sitcom, but it didn't have any like sort of like laughter. It didn't have a laughter track, so it was kind of more, it was more like, it was around the same time as Twin Peaks, and it was called Dream On, and about like a fella he'd live his life, and it kind of intercut with like clips from old black and white comedy shows or films from the 1950s to describe how he was feeling and how the situation he was in. But it had loads of like nudity as well, which was like when I was like sort of like 14, 15, it was like, this is fucking great. Now, I don't know if you remember, it was called Dream On. So if you remember that show, just let me know in the comments, because I kind of feel like that nobody ever remembers this TV show, but I used to love it back in the early 90s. It was always showing it late on like in the UK, because obviously there was like a lot of nudity and quite a lot of like bad language, and it was really edgy, for like that time. Especially American comedies were always considered quite safe, because we used to stuff like Cheers, and stuff like that. And this was like totally different. Let's see where I'm at now. Let's go back to the comments. So apparently already done. Oh my god. So yeah, we're already going towards 8K. Jesus Christ. Jess says, whatever little guys, man, that guns, says you want to. Yeah, I've gone shoot. Let's go. Yes, it was Jackie Earle Haley. I thought so. Sean says he sounds too much like Rorschach from Watchmen, which he also played. I've not seen Watchmen. I'm not that big. Everyone says it's like this great cult sort of like superhero movie, and it's like 3 hours long, and I'm just like, I'm not the biggest. I don't know. I've got like, I'm not think I'm a big enough of a superhero fan to watch it. Just as the biggest source of the shoot. Big T says, I still want my Texas Chain Master Test to say is on Netflix. Yeah, Sean says, I could never get into Big Bang Theory. Used to enjoy. Oh yeah, I used to love the Wonder Years. Yeah, love the Wonder Years. Oh, nobody remembers Dream On. Nobody remembers Dream On. I think it's just me. Anyway, let's go back into like chat's caught up now. Let's just go back. We're going to start wrapping things up soon. Let's just go back to. So we've discussed Freddie. We discussed Jason. Like Michael 2030. Where do you think Michael will be in 2030? Obviously, Halloween ends this year. It's 4 years on from Halloween Kills, which means Michael would now be. Let me just do my maths. He will be 60, about 64, if I'm getting my maths right. So he's going to be getting into his mid 60s. So I think it's safe to say that this era of Michael Myers is done. So I think I'm saying this era of Michael Myers is done, but clearly we're not done with Michael Myers. It's going to be moving forward in some way, shape, or form. So let's just say by 2030, where do we think we're going to be with Michael Myers? Is it going to be a streaming TV series? Is it going to be a reboot, a requel? My personal opinion is, I honestly think we're going to be seeing, based on the success of like, well, certainly on Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills was a big enough success. Halloween Ends is going to be I think it's going to be a big success as well. I think we're going to see one of the big streaming services just go in for this and do their own thing with it. I think maybe 3 or 4 years from now, maybe 5 years from now, how big an effect COVID's going to have had on the cinema experience could be important. I mean, if COVID does have a big impact on the whole cinema experience going forward, and streaming services become bigger and bigger and bigger, I honestly think you're going to go for the biggest franchise of the lot at the moment, and that's the Halloween franchise in terms of horror. Michael Myers is the cash cow at the minute. Netflix are going to come in, or Amazon Prime, and they're going to whore the shit out of Michael Myers. I think that's where we're going to go. I think the next, incarnation of Michael is not going to be on the big screen. I think it's going to be on the small screen. I think it's going to be on a streaming service of some sort. Much in the same way that what they've done with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, whether it's Amazon Prime, whether it's Netflix, one of these big two companies, I would say, is going to come in, strike while the iron's hot, get the rights, and they might sit on it for a couple of years. But I think before the end of the decade, I think we are going to see a Halloween movie on a streaming service, and I don't think they'll go down the route of a TV show. I think what they might do is, depending on, they may go with a new movie, a new reboot of some sort, maybe a young Michael. They're gonna try and whoever does go with this, which I think somebody will on a streaming service, they're gonna go to try and get as much longevity out as possible. So they're gonna try and go as far back as possible to a young as possible Michael. So 21, or even go back to him as a child first. They might even tie in a TV show with the movie franchise. That's my thinking. If you can get the rights to Michael as a streaming service, this could go the way of Disney buying Marvel or Disney buying Star Wars. Just having a movie franchise and also tying in with TV shows as well. I mean, the ultimate wet dream, I suppose, for someone like Netflix and Amazon Prime would be to tie up all these horror franchises together and just create this slasher universe where you've got Michael, Jason, Freddy, Chucky, and throw them all in the pot and have this sort of universe where they all have their own spin-off shows, and then they all have their own separate movies, but then they all come together in a kind of end game scenario. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine what they would do with that? I don't think it would be particularly great. I think it'd probably be a bit of a clusterfuck. But can you imagine the cash in front of their eyes if they could see the possibility of doing that? They would probably just cream their pants with the thought of that. But obviously, the way things are at the minute, everything's separated and disconnected. But that's my thoughts on with Michael. I mean, I just think that, yeah, I mean, he is the cash cow at the minute, and they hold all the owners of the Michael Myers franchise. That they hold all the aces at the minute. You know what I mean? But if Netflix could get the rights to the Halloween franchise, I mean, or Amazon Prime, I mean, I'm not saying what they could do would be a good thing, but they would certainly churn out a hell of a lot of content for it, because they know that they could make a hell of a lot of money, and the more money, the more content they churned out for that. Yeah, I mean, finally, obviously, let's just go back to the chat again. I'm missing. I'll quickly mention sort of Leatherface before that wrap things up. It is sort of 5-2 in the UK now, so I could never get into software. They covered that. Yeah, used to enjoy the Wonder Years. Yeah, nobody remembers Dream On. Anthony says, Halloween is too big of a franchise to end anytime soon. Sure to speak, so hope to finally see Batman later. I think we'll see another Jason sooner or later. There's too much money to be made. But there's been too much money to be made for the last 20 years, well, the last 12 years since the last film. But it hasn't stopped them two, Victor Miller and Sean Cunningham, just at loggerheads and just solve your differences. You're 82 years of age. I think you are now. Sort your problems out and just get on with things. Just enjoy your retirement. Jesus Christ. Anthony says Disney buying Marvel and making all those TV shows that made the timeline very confusing. God, it's not as confusing as the DC time. The DC timeline is just a complete mess. I mean, this new Batman is just, how does that tie in with the Joker film and Ben Affleck's Batman, and it's just such a mess. The DC have just really, I mean, the Batman could be a great movie. I probably will enjoy it when I see it, and the Joker is a fantastic film. But in terms of like a universe, like in terms of continuity in that universe, it's just completely fucked up. They just completely fucked it up. They didn't think it through. So individually, the films in the DC universe are a lot stronger, in my opinion, than the Marvel universe. In terms of like how many films they've released, I'm not saying, obviously Marvel have released some strong films, but DC, for what they put out, their quality per film is a higher standard than Marvel, I think. But the continuity is just all over the place, and it has affected them. And Darren says, why sit on something that can make mega money? Even if they have to share the proceeds, makes no sense, just leave it. Exactly. So finally, onto Leatherface. Obviously, Texas Chainsaw Massacre has been a massive, massive success on Netflix. The second most streamed film. Is it second most streamed film, or just anything on Netflix? Is that including TV shows, or is that just films? I don't really know how Netflix works in terms of how they judge streaming hours and who watches what. But I think it's fair to say that, Texas Chainsaw Massacre has been a massive success. I mentioned this on Piz's Patreon stream. He put a review out for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it got like 4K views in like 2 days. And I said to Piz, I said, like, that's saying something, because if you go on Piz's channel, that review is probably his most popular video of the last month. And it's like there's a hunger for this film. People want to watch the film. They want to watch reviews of the film. It's resonating maybe slightly outside the norm as well, which is a good thing. And it's a damn fine. It's a damn fine time. I was going to say a damn fine film. It's not a damn fine film. It's a damn entertaining film. It's enjoyable. I'm not going to like go overboard. It's a fun film. There's some great kills. It doesn't take itself too seriously. We're sympathetic to Leatherface and not so much to the main characters, which is it's always been like that with Chainsaw Massacre films. We've always been sympathetic to Leatherface. He's always been the sympathetic character, and the main characters in this film, yeah, they are pretty unlikable to a point. But in terms of where this goes going forward, I mean, I think we're already guaranteed another Chainsaw Massacre film from Netflix. They're gonna keep on. They're gonna keep hold of this now, and they're probably gonna milk this dry. So I honestly think with Chainsaw Massacre, I think with Chainsaw Massacre, we're probably going to see maybe a couple of films in quick succession over the next 3 or 4 years from Netflix. And then that franchise will probably go quiet, maybe going into like the mid-2030s, which sounds so far away, but it's really not. Whereas obviously the other franchises are probably going to start coming back, getting closer to the end of the decade. I think with Chainsaw Massacre, I think Netflix are going to put out, and they're going to put out the new film, which we were promised will probably come out by the end of next year. certainly. It's going to be out in no time at all. And there'll probably be like a third film maybe at some point like 2025, 2026. And then that may be the end of the Chainsaw Massacre maybe for like the next like 9-10 years. You know, I think we might see a bit of a delay then. Maybe we'll never see it again. But I think with Chainsaw Massacre, that we're gonna the 2020s is the decade of the Chainsaw Massacre franchise. In the same way that the 80s was the decade of Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. You know, this is the time for Leatherface. It really is, and it's a perfect time to strike while the iron's hot because Freddy's not doing nothing. Michael's on his way out now. After at the end of this year, I think this will be it. We won't see Michael in for a good few years. Yeah, say Freddy's not doing anything. So yeah, this is Leatherface's time to shine, basically. So that's the way I see it going with Leatherface. I'm going to wrap things up now, guys, because it is like nearly 2 o'clock. But let's just try and wrap up the comments. Texas Chainsaw Massacre may well go the same TV route. It may well do. I mean, it's already kind of on the TV. I mean, going on streaming as well with Netflix, you're kind of on that route anyway, aren't you? It's basically, it is TV at this point. I mean, Anthony says, Texas TCM on Netflix was very enjoyable, but I did not like any of the characters and want them all to die. Well, you kind of got your wish, almost. It's time for a Wishmaster to come back. I love the first Wishmaster film. The first Wishmaster film, I think, is fantastic. Such a fun film. But anyway, I'm going to wrap things up now, guys. James says, hey, yes, Wishmaster rocks. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to wrap things up now, guys, because it is getting very, very late in the UK. We are 2:03. But Jamie, thank you so much for being in the chat. Anthony, always. Darren, as always. Sean, as always. Big T, thank you so much, man. You so contributed so much in this chat. Thank you so much. Jess, as always. I hope I don't miss somebody. That's always my biggest dread. I miss somebody. I said Anthony, didn't I? Corny, Hayden was in the chat. I'm just going through the same old names over and over again now. Yeah, Hayden was in the chat. I know Lorne was in there earlier on. Said Big T. Corey, of course, was in the chat from Smalls and Doors. I think DJ was in the very beginning as well. Daniel Edwards. Oh, that was a troll. Sorry. No. Fuck Daniel Edwards. Oh yeah, Mikey Diane was in the beginning. Thank you, Mikey. Yeah, and that's it. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining the chat tonight, guys. Really appreciate it. The chat's been amazing. I will see you next time with another stream. Good night.